This is Andy Schauer, partner of Schauer Law Group, LLP. We're here with another installment of our estate planning series, and today we're going to talk about trusts. Now, what is a trust? If you have trust in somebody, that means you believe that they are going to carry out a task or carry out a wish of yours, right? Well, that's similar to how a real legal trust actually operates. What happens when you form a trust is you say, I, as the word that I can't think of right now, not Baylor, there we go. What this does is says, I, as what's called the settlor, the person who's going to be contributing money or a resource of some kind, I, as the settlor, am going to set aside something, usually money. Let's say money for a shorthand. I, as the settlor, am going to set aside a sum of money. And I would like a trustee, the person in charge of the trust, to use that money for a specific purpose. So right now we have two parties involved, right? There's the settlor, who's contributing money to the trust, what's called the corpus of the trust, the base of the trust, the resource that the trust is based on. And we have the trustee. And the trustee is the person who's actually in charge of following the directions that you lay out in your trust. Now, of course, the trust has to have a third party, which is the beneficiaries, the person who the trustee is actually acting in the interest of. Now, sometimes all three of these roles can be filled by one person. For example, in the case of a living trust, that is a trust that you form while you're still alive and to operate while you're still alive, you might be the settlor. You might be the person who's contributing all the resources, the money or whatever it is, to the corpus of the trust. You might be the person making all the decisions about how the corpus of the trust is used, and you might be the person benefiting from those payments. So, for example, before I get to the example, blah, 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 edit this to this part here. In addition to money, you can put real estate in trust. So, to use this example where one person has all three of these roles, one thing you might want to do is put your home into trust. And that's a good idea, not because you have to pay the transfer tax when you move the property from your personal name into the name of the trust, which you do, and that is kind of a burn. But what it does allow you to do is save on that transfer tax in the future. So, by the time I pass away and my kids are going to take over my house, theoretically, if that's what the trust says that we're going to do, then the kids can just take over as beneficiaries or can step into the role of beneficiaries of the trust. Perhaps also they would act as the trustee or whatever the case may be. It kind of depends on your kids, your relationship with them, and also how old they are. You know, my kids are 5 and 8. And so if I pass away tomorrow, I don't want them in charge of anything. Definitely not my kids. But I'm kidding, kids. I love you very much. You're very responsible. You're going to do great. But I don't want you taking over everything that your mom and I have to do tomorrow, right? So that's what we have springing trusts for. Or you might just have it so it's a post-mortem trust. So nothing happens at all with it. There's no corpus of the trust, there's no trustee, there's no settlor, there's no nothing until after the point where you pass away. But for this argument, but for these purposes, let's call it a springing trust. Let's say I am Andy Schauer, right? And let's say that I want to make the Schauer Family Living Trust. Let's say I want to make the Schauer Family Living Trust. The Schauer Family Living Trust. The Schauer Family Living Trust. And let's say the Schauer Family Living Trust names initially myself and my wife and partner, Ilana Schauer, also a partner of Schauer Law Group, LLP, and fantastic attorney. She and I would be the settlors and the trustees and the beneficiaries. And what we would do is we could take that trust document, we could take it to our bank, and we could say, hey, bank, we're opening a new account under the name of the Schauer Family Living Trust, and we're just going to move all of our money over into this new bank account. And we would have to show the bank the trust document, and then bing, bang, boom, we have a bank account for our trust. And we could also say, hey, bank, we want to have our house be part of the trust as well. And so what we could do at that point is sign the title over to the trust, pay that transfer tax, do all the paperwork, jump through all the bureaucratic hoops that you need to, and then the house would also be held in the name of the trust. And because it's a living trust, my partner and wife Ilana and I would still be in control as trustees over all of these resources, right? So nothing on a practical level really changes. Our day-to-day lives, how all of that stuff works, everything pretty much stays the same. But if we pass away, say we pass away tomorrow, and knock on wood, let's say we pass away tomorrow and we have decided that it's going to be the Schauer family, and we have decided that the Schauer family living trust is actually going to be the Schauer family springing trust. And so what happens at the point where she and I pass away, that means now we need somebody else to step in as the trustees over this trust. And then what the trustee does is they're the boss of the trust, essentially. But they are bound by the terms of what's written in that trust instrument. So if we wanted to set aside money for food and healthcare and basic necessities for our kids, we could say all that money that's in the trust bank account, that's the corpus of the trust, along with the real estate and any other things of value, assets that we put into that trust, as well as the trust's debts. Let's be real about that, because there are going to be some debts too that you got to worry about sometimes. What happens at that point is now our kids are named in the springing trust document as the new beneficiaries of the trust. And then we'd also say in there that the trustee is bound by the trust document only to spend these monies in these certain ways that the trust has already approved of. Now, we'd still be the settlors of the trust. We'd still be the people who put the corpus of the trust together and passed all that stuff off to our children and the trustee. But we're no longer in the picture. So everything else has to be passed off in that way. What that means is that now our kids are going to be taken care of, and they don't need to worry about opening new bank accounts, signing over new things. All that stuff is already in place. So they know that if anything happens to us, they are already going to have all those bureaucratic hoops jumped through, taken care of, taxes paid, all that good stuff. Now, what we would also have in a situation like this is what's called a pour-over will. You'll remember in our other videos that we discussed wills. And a pour-over will is a certain flavor, if you will, of will, no pun intended, where it says everything that's not already spoken for by this particular trust is going to be handled in these ways. And usually it just means that anything that's not already contemplated in the trust will go through more or less the regular probate process that every estate has to go through after the death of a person. And so a pour-over will and the trust instrument work in tandem with one another so that you know that your assets are all going to be covered no matter what the court's ultimate disposition on certain things are. You can already have all those things thought out, taken care of, ready to go. So if that sounds like something you'd like to do, please feel free to reach out to us. On the web, we're at schauerlawgroup.com. You'll find our contact form right there, or you can reach us by email at admin@schauerlawgroup.com. Our contact information is also on our page here, and anytime you'd like to reach out with any questions or we can help at all, please feel free. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.